Well, Madam Manager, I've got 7 o'clock.
6
I mean, 6 o'clock. So. All right, I'll call tonight's meeting to order. Is anybody here to speak at the public comment section? I had some folks that were coming. I don't know what happened to them. Miss Kennedy was going some. Okay. All right. So is everybody signed up, Madam Manager?
I can look.
I don't think so.
Do you want to do the pledge, Mr. Mayor? No one signed up.
Yeah, I will. I just wanted to make sure that we gave them a chance. All right, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nobody there, okay. Okay, the next thing is the adoption of tonight's council agenda. And we do have a long agenda, but I wanted to add one thing about a letter concerning the our local hospital and a couple of other towns in the area, just for discussion and to see what the board's pleasure might be on that. Does anybody have anything they want to add or subtract from the agenda for tonight?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
If we could maybe look at adding the item that was discussed in ordinance review today regarding yonder,
Yeah.
just to get appetite of the board.
All right. Where do we want to put that, Madam Manager?
Maybe, probably, how about right after legal, if we just move closed session down to C and made this one B, since it would be a legal matter.
Okay.
B.
All right, now don't let me get all mixed up on this. So, right after A, we're going to have the yonder question.
Yes, sir. A under legal.
Yeah, that's A under, yeah. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else got anything to change, or to add? All right, if not,
Where were you going to add your letter at? Did you already say where you're going to add that at?
yeah, in the Angel Hospital.
What are we doing, that 6N or something?
Yeah, let's see here. Yeah, let's just make that in if that's okay with everybody.
HCA.
Okay. I got another thing there too. We were talking about prioritizing talking about the Whitmire property. I've got something I'd like to add to that, not as an agenda item, just a suggestion about that prioritizing. Okay, everybody else got anything? All right, if not, let's have a motion to adopt the agenda as amended and added.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of the consent agenda. Anybody got anything on the consent agenda that they want to pull up for discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay. Hey, fellas. Okay, public session. Nobody showed up. Miss Kennedy? I don't know. Anybody here for public session? Guess not. So we'll move on. New business. Okay, this is a hard one for me to do. We have a proclamation in honor of the late Vice Mayor Barbara McRae. So I will read it. Whereas the Franklin community mourned the loss of Vice Mayor Barbara McRae, who passed away on March 2nd, 2021, and whereas Vice Mayor Barbara McRae was an influential writer, photographer, historian, and naturalist, and whereas Vice Mayor Barbara McRae was a dedicated public servant who worked to enhance the lives of Franklin residents during her initial 4-year term as a town council member. from December 2013 to December 2017, and again for an additional 4-year term when she was re-elected by the citizens to the council and then appointed as mayor pro tempore by her fellow council members. And whereas Vice Mayor Barbara McRae was an influential member of the community, not only through her work at the Franklin Press, but also as she served in various undertakings such as president of the Main Street Program, board member to the Niquosi Land Trust, now Mainspring, Macon County Community Foundation, Macon County Arts Council, the Macon County Public Library, and Fontana Regional Library. Town Council Liaison to the Niquosi Initiative, among many other organizations. And whereas Vice Mayor Barbara McRae always sought to make this community a special place for the residents and visitors alike, she was instrumental in the development of Picking on the Square, Pumpkin Fest, and the development of the Women's History Trail, which will see the placement of a public sculpture honoring 3 women, white, black, and Cherokee, who played important roles in the early development of the town in Macon County, a project that Vice Mayor Barbara McRae cared about deeply. And whereas Vice Mayor Barbara McRae was a positive influence toward the town that she called home and loved, she will always be remembered for her smile and forward thinking for this great place and the people in it, past and present. Now therefore, I, Robert S. Scott, Mayor of the Town of Franklin, on behalf of the Franklin Town Council, do hereby proclaim that the town extends its sincere appreciation to Vice Mayor Barbara McRae for her contributions to the community and offers condolences and deepest sympathies to her family and friends on behalf of the grateful residents of Franklin. I'll entertain a motion to adopt this resolution. Mr. Culpepper, Mr. Lewis, second. All in favor? Great loss. Thank you, ma'am. Discussion on appointment of vice mayor. If there's any discussion, if not, I'll call for a motion to appoint Jack Corton vice mayor. Do I have a motion? Have a motion? Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Got your marching orders.
Thank you. I didn't vote.
Oh, discussion on reopening gazebo. Madam Manager, let's talk about this.
Don't blame me, I voted for it.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, what you have before you tonight is wanted just to start some discussion with some of the relaxation of some of the current executive orders. I know we're getting ready to approach some festival and event season, and wanted to bring to council tonight some discussion if the board would be comfortable moving forward effectively, we could say immediately or a specific date, in opening back up the gazebo for reservations with the understanding that we follow the current guidelines of the executive order. They're listed in the package. Of course, those could be subject to change as time permits, but just wanted to get the temperature of town council with that at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have any problem with it. I just wonder if our chief of police had any security issues that he was concerned about that we should entertain before the board takes any action to approve this.
We don't, obviously, right now have any concerns. We're not sure what the future holds as far as certain trials that are going on, as you know, right now, with the Floyd case. So we're not sure how that's going to develop, but other than that, I don't think we have any concerns with normal scheduling of the gazebo.
Mr. Culpepper, you had a...
No, I'm in favor of opening it immediately as long as we're following the state's guidelines.
Yeah, me too.
We can always unopen it, can't we?
Yep.
Okay. All right. You want to put that in the form of a motion?
Sure.
Okay.
Motion to open the gazebo effective immediately following state COVID standards guidelines.
Do I have a second?
And as they evolve,
Yes, we
Okay.
could open.
Oh, yeah, as they exist, I'll second.
Yeah. And there is a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Glad to see that reopen. Maybe we're getting back. Presentation on Franklin Fire Department 9/11. Never forget fundraiser. Chief Orman, you're up, sir.
Good evening. Some of you may have seen already, we've just started to get a little publicity with our social media, but the fire department is going to do a 5K fund run this year. As we're approaching budget time, looking to do more with less and trying to figure out how to generate revenue. We want to put together a fundraiser, not just asking for money, but something to bring the community together, promote health and safety. So we partnered with Dave Lynn. It's been a huge help as the guru on all things fun and run. And he's guiding us along. Also, with this year being the 20th anniversary of the terrorist attacks on September 11th, we decided to tie it in with that as well, so that we can honor all the heroes that sacrificed their life that day, as well as the victims. We're going to have follow the original Ruby Run, I believe is what it was called, prior to my time, but apparently that was a big hit back in the day.
1991.
We're going to follow that same route. We're also going to have a fun run walk around the track at the high school for those that don't want to do the Fun K or the 5K. We've invited other nonprofits in the area to bring in some food trucks, so it's more of a community outreach and not just help for the fire department. We'll have a DJ, a bounce house for the kids, and lots of other things just to hopefully promote a fun day filled with health and safety, and hopefully generate a little revenue to help us with some equipment purchases.
When you say it's going to be the route of the original Ruby Run, that was when we went out to Wells Grove, turned around at Wells Grove, and came back to high school.
I went to default.
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct.
I think Joe Collins and I ran the first one. I'm not sure.
Well, you can run this one as well, sir.
What?
No, we know who will be running for him.
Yeah, right.
But we've got a race website set up. They're handling online registration for us. Registration started April 1st. And we're looking to pull in quite a few people into the community where we'll be challenging surrounding counties and public safety and trying to get a lot of people into the community, not just our community here, but to help generate revenue for the entire town. So we just wanted to make you aware of it in case you saw it out and about or read about it in the paper, so that you heard it from us as well. Is there any questions?
What, the date is
September 11th.
Okay,
Yeah, we lucked out this year, it was a Saturday. But yeah, and we're also going to have a guest of honor whose brother was a police officer that died in the attacks. He's going to open the ceremonies.
Oh, good.
And hopefully it'll be a good time.
Chief, that's good work. That's great.
Thank you, sir.
I'll help you keep time. Street closing requests for various events. Mr. Lynn, I guess you're up, sir.
Thank you all again. Well, as things are starting to settle, we're starting to pick up a little bit. This year, the Taste of Scotland, from my understanding, has been not happening this year, so I'm working with the Scottish Art Museum about doing a Cherokee Scottish Heritage Day from 10 to 2 after the Braveheart 5K. The event will, like I said, will take place in different locations. The 5K I was coming tonight to ask about was closure just for an hour and a half, and it would be from, like we always do, the route. And then afterwards, the award ceremony will be up here at the gazebo, right there. And we're hoping that this year, for our Cherokee Scottish Heritage Day, that we could be able to have that area in front closed for our vendors, but also for the lectures and demonstrations, all that stuff taking place during the day from 10 to 2. We'll also, we like to ask about using this here too for some of our lectures, like Barbara Duncan wants to be one of the speakers too. We're also going to work with the Mountain too. So it's going to be a neat, we've reached out recently to the Cherokee tribe. The museum's excited about it. They're coming over, and also the Scottish Art Museum. We're working with the merchants on Main Street too about the event. So that's the biggest issue this year, was asking about closing it. I guess give me right, Iowa, right there, just from the Main Street to Church Street only, not anything else. And then for the Braveheart 5K, like always, the event starts at 8 o'clock for the kids run and it'll be over by 8:30, and then the 5K starts at 8:30. We'll be done by 9:30. That way the gazebo will be the award ceremonies. That way Main Street can open back up at 9:30. There'll be no issue. That is one of them. And then another one is the 80s Splashback weekend coming up in August. So that's my baby. But so this year we're getting bigger and bigger. So we are excited about it, and we're asking to have town allows to close the street for 1 hour. So we do the parade from 10 a.m. to 11, and then meet at the gazebo like we always do for pictures and meet and greet. That event has just come bigger than I ever thought it was. We've had auction items and everything from celebrities from all around the world. We have a couple of celebrities coming this year. Peter Warwick that played for the Bengals and also Florida State. We also have the young lady from Too Close to Comfort coming again this year, and we have others also sports legends. Bob Lilly, I mean, everybody knows who Bob Lilly is. He's Mr. Cowboy if you're an NFL fan, and so he's hopefully coming too. So we're working on that too, getting these different individuals to be part of the parade, but also be part of the whole weekend event. 100% of the proceeds go to the Greenville Shrine Festival. The only thing I'm coming today to asking for is just for the parade to be from 10 a.m. until 11, and then we finish up the square where the aisle of the street would be closed till 11:30. That's the only thing we're asking for this year. And the third one is, as Chief said, the Never Forget 5K. And I might be wrong, I'm trying to figure out the road in front of the high school, asking for that to be closed, but just allow local traffic to come through from there to the roundabout at Depot Street, just to control a little bit of the traffic for the runners and all that stuff to do the race. As Chief said, we do have an individual coming this year. His brother lost his brother in the towers. If you ever seen the Nicolas Cage movie, The Twin Towers, his brother is one of the characters portrayed in that movie. His name is Pat Howard, and his brother, his mom gave President Bush his badge and told him never forget. That's where it started. So his brother, if you ever see George Bush holding the badge, that's this young man's brother that died in the towers. We also are working with a lot of local nonprofits, encourage them to come out, set up, making a community event and have community outreach, but also to honor, as the Chief said, those we lost in 9/11. But that's it, really, I'm asking for.
The 1 hour for the parade,
Yes, sir.
that's what morning?
Which one?
I mean, what day of the week morning?
Oh, it's Saturday.
And I keep getting back to it.
Every year, Joe. I'm used to it.
For that 1 hour, can we not just divert the traffic through?
Okay.
Through here and around, rather than having to set up cones forever, and then signs there and signs there and signs there?
Well,
I mean, it's a slow day anyway, and it's for an hour. I'm just suggesting, we don't have to make the decision tonight, I'm just planting the seed, that if we're gonna block off that main street for 1 hour, I would love us to shoot them through here and out behind. There's no traffic, the businesses are, anyway. Otherwise, I'll give you what you want, I'll vote for it.
I'm used to every hour. I told the wife, I said, Joe Collins will be the first one.
I don't run him, but I'll make a motion that we give him the request he's asked.
If you'll run, we'll definitely close that off.
Oh, yeah.
I'll run with you.
And I'll give you free entry. You'll be the biggest YouTuber ever.
Well, let me ask you, you say you want Panther Drive closed, but when we did the Ruby Run, I think the first one we did was in 91, we went out the gate from the football field. We didn't go on Panther Drive.
Wyatt Street.
He's talking about truck route, Bob.
That's what, I know, that's what, I thought you were talking about the
No,
441
no,
in
no,
front of
no,
the
no.
high school.
No.
Wyatt Road.
Is it Wyatt Road?
Wyatt Street?
Water
Yeah.
Street, yeah.
Truck route.
Okay, you go down Warrior
Yeah.
Street, you go all the way out to Wells
Wells
Grove,
Grove and turn around.
you turn at the intersection,
Yes.
yeah.
So that's why I was hoping to have just a little area, just to slow down a little bit of the traffic.
Right, I'm sorry, I was thinking you wanted to close.
No. Yeah, I understand what you're saying now, but no.
I've
We're
always
just looking
called
at
that
that one
Panther
area to
Drive.
go and just help out a little bit, to control
Okay.
traffic.
Okay, I think we have a motion on the floor, do we not? Joe's got a motion. Second, any further discussion? All right, get busy, you got it.
Thank you.
Well, I just assumed that we were voting.
Now, that's also related to the Braveheart too, and the Cherokee Scottish too. I mean, we're on the
I
same.
made it for all.
Okay.
I'll be a drink.
Okay, hey Gwen, welcome. You're up, please, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Again, I want to thank all of you that has helped the streets through what we've gone through this past year, and things are picking up, and we are continually thankful for that. But we have 3 of our events planned for this year. The first one is May 29th. That's Memorial Day weekend. That is our spring market day. We were not able to have that last year. We did have it year before last, brought about 5,000 people downtown. I know that we're gonna have to do things in moderation this year based on whatever guidelines there are. And they may be abbreviated, bringing people downtown. But we are asking to close the street that day from 6 o'clock in the morning until 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That we will have some vendors with tents in the middle of the street. We will have some music. And we will also be featuring our airing of the quilts. As you recall, we used to do airing of the quilts on Mother's Day weekend, and it got to a point that people went out of town or they didn't want to, they had things to do on Saturday. So year before last, we did put it in this spring market day, and it did work really well, bringing our quilters out. So that is the first event. Like I said, we're just asking for the street to be closed. I've done the request also for the gazebo area, actually to put our quilters in that area. And we've asked for Iola Street along with Phillips Street. So that's the three that we normally ask during this time. The second one is July 17th. It is our Hometown Heritage Festival. It's our 8th year. Is asking for the same street closure from 6 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. I usually get the street cleared really fast so that it doesn't affect the restaurants that we have on Main Street. But this will also, our vendors have reached out. We've got a lot of people that are wanting to stay in town this year, so they're actually reaching out to us saying, are you going to have your events? Because we don't want to travel too far. We'd rather stay home, which helps us. Our third event is September the 4th. All of three of these are on Saturday. It's our fall market day. That's Labor Day weekend. And that's also asking the street to be closed as well, Phillips and Iola and Main. And from that 6 a.m. until the 4 p.m. And then we'll get them out as fast as we can to clear the street. During the meantime, what we have started back again this year is we are having crafters. Our first event was this past weekend for Easter weekend. We are having crafters on the sidewalk, which is working really well. People are still doing their social distancing. They're still coming out, and our crafters are very appreciative because some of our older crafters, our seniors, citizens that don't like to travel or don't want to travel right now, that's given them an opportunity to sell what they make, their crafts that they make. But knowing that doing these three big events, that will bring tourists back here into Franklin, and that will also bring our locals out.
Okay. Discussion of Ms. Taylor. Questions? All right, if none, I'll entertain a motion, or, I'll entertain a motion to adopt would it be recommendations that Ms. Taylor made about street closings and activities of Downtown Merchants
For all three
Association?
events.
Yes, so if somebody will,
I'll make a motion, we approve.
all three.
Yeah.
Okay, second? All right, all in favor? Okay, Gwen, get them
Thank you.
blues.
Thank you.
Okay, update on litter campaign. Madam Manager.
Yes, Commissioner Mayor and Council. I know at your strategic planning session, one of the topics I believe everyone agreed on was the issue that we've been seeing with litter in the town of Franklin and Macon County. And I want to turn it over first to our police department, Chief Harrell and I believe Lieutenant Hollins here. They have done a great job spearheading some projects on this and have gained some momentum. So if I could turn it over to both of those gentlemen to give an update to council on that, and then I believe Councilmember Lewis and I have an update as well.
Thank you. We're in our second week of using the community service workers that are assigned to the town of Franklin through the Department of Public Safety Probation Parole. So we've actually been assigned 3 so far. I've allotted 10 workers. Not all those are going to show up at the same time, but so far we have gotten probably 50 to 75 bags in the past week and a half picked up. The chief and I, once the worker has got everything collected and done, the chief and I take the pickup truck and we've been going around picking it up and taking it to the landfill. Mr. Moore's crew helped us one day load up the litter. And also Mr. Setzer let us use some of the supplies from the Adopt a Street program. He's got going on, so it's been very productive. One of the gentlemen, he's done all his hours, finishes up tomorrow actually, so we got 2 more people needing to do hours, and hopefully we can build upon this since it's a new agenda, to where come this fall we can get back up on the litter. When the weeds and grasses start dying down again, we can continue this each year, hopefully twice a year, and just get all this litter up. But we've been trying to focus on the main roadways into Franklin, since there'll be tourists coming in. So that's our focus now. We got the Highlands Road. Today he got Harrison Avenue, and he got the Depot Street extension the other day. So we're going to hit the south side tomorrow and hopefully make it look good for our visitors this summer.
Great, good. Yes,
I've
Chief.
had some good conversations also with Representative Gillespie and Senator Corbin, and it appears that DOT is going to be gaining some traction very soon on some of our state roads to and from town.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
The only other would be, Councilmember Lewis has done a great job reaching out to the school system, so if
Good.
you'd like to give an update on that.
Yeah, that's real brief because it's nothing we can do obviously right now. We'll have to shoot for next school term. But I reached out to Dr. Baldwin and he put me in touch with Josh Lynch, and we're talking about trying to get some kind of campaign started in the school system, and it'd be like a 3-tiered type deal where maybe in the elementary schools we have maybe somebody from the police or and maybe have some sort of campaign where we're going to the elementary schools, and maybe we have like a costume character or something, get these kids, talk to them about, littering and how not to. Because like I told you, I said, these little kids in the car, mom and daddy want to throw something out the window, they're going to get scolded. And then the second prong would be, Josh had suggested in the middle schools doing like maybe a poster contest or something. And then for the high school and the early college, maybe you've got kids that are wanting to pad their resume for college, do some community service type projects. But all that is obviously I plan to get up with him the next few weeks and start talking about it and scheming some stuff out and see what we can come up with. But that's where we're at right now. But it'll be next. I know doesn't solve anything immediately, but it sounds like the PD is doing a great job so far anyway. But if you don't have to pick it up to start with, that's the best.
Yeah.
That's the best outcome. So when I hear more on it, I'll get back to y'all with what I find out. So
To the extent Public Works can help with the police department on any of these areas, manpower or vehicles or whatever, I wish they would. That's great. That's great progress.
Getting there, sounds good. Anything else on that?
No, sir. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and especially thank you to our police department and Public Works for going out there. I know Chris Waldrop with Streets has picked up some bags too, so just thank you to our staff for taking this serious and really addressing the problem.
The next item is appointments to the appointment to the Economic Development Commission. I talked to Mr. Lewis to see if he would be interested in that, and he said that he would. This would be filling the seat that Barbara McRae, she was representing the town, and so we need to fill that seat. Any other nominations, comments?
Make a motion, we appoint Councilman Lewis.
All right, second. Any further discussion? Okay, you got another job.
All in favor?
Thank you. And now I'd like to mention that we had one other appointment. I sent all the board members an email wanting to know who would like to serve with the Frogs. I heard back from one almost immediately. Mr. Culpepper jumped right in, and nobody else ran against you.
All right,
So-
thank you.
So you'll
Great.
represent the town with the Frog Boarders. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you so much. All right, presentation on water, sewer, asset management plan. Madam Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, what you have before you tonight is a presentation that we've worked with one of our engineering firms that we have on contract. One of the things that this presentation looks at with this water and resource assessment plan is it is key to securing the town for funding in our SRF funding proposal for phase 2. of the water treatment plant. By having a plan that addresses your initial needs, it can score you anywhere from 8 to 10 additional points, which would be crucial in trying to get us funded. But this plan, it was in your packet, and kind of what it breaks down what our current infrastructure is in water and sewer. If you look at it, I'm going to be very brief. You have 89 miles of water mains, anywhere from 1 and 5 to 24-inch mains. You have 7 water storage tanks, 390 fire hydrants, and 1,185 water valves. So this is basically, it has taken your system in this asset management plan and condensed it into a presentation and a comprehensive plan for the town to have an inventory of what our current water and sewer infrastructure is. So this is just a presentation. What follows next in the agenda would be just a resolution to adopt this presentation. Again, this is just key and instrumental into getting the town those additional points towards scoring high in the SRF funding cycle for fall 2021.
Thank you, ma'am. And I think with some of the, let's see, did we have anything on here about the funds that'll be coming down from the government on the
Yes, sir.
stimulus plan?
We have that coming down.
We'll talk about that then in a few minutes. Okay, so you have the resolution adopting the water and sewer asset management plan. Do I have a motion to adopt as presented?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Sorry.
Oh, okay, that's the next item. Discussion on the American Rescue Plan. Madam Manager.
Yes, so Mr. Mayor and Council, I just wanted to bring this before you tonight to start thinking about it. Staff and myself have sat on several webinars and Zoom meetings the last couple weeks between Region A. There was a consulting firm that did one we sat in on, and then the most recent one's in your packet. It's from the North Carolina League of Municipalities. And I'll be honest, in judging right now, it's still kind of a toss-up what it can and cannot be used for. It does appear that the town of Franklin is in line for $1.2 million. We should be receiving that in 2 installments from what we've understood. One that could come as early as May, and then the next installment, which would be half of that, would come by the end of this calendar year. You will have until December 2024 to spend this funding, but I wanted to go ahead and get this out in front of council if we want to go ahead and start looking at maybe setting some work days and work sessions to prioritize some of the goals that council has in mind of what to spend this funding on. We would treat this kind of similar as a capital project. It would be its own line item. We do not plan to put this in your budget. This will be treated separately. So when we do receive the funds, it will be in almost a capital project ordinance. So I don't want you, when we're going into the budget process, don't expect to see that there. We will treat this separately, but just kind of wanted to get ahead of it because I know there's a lot of chatter out there that this money's coming down the pipelines. It does appear this is coming to fruition. So just wanted to get some feedback from council, work sessions for this. What are your thoughts on what staff can do to help us prepare for this funding that's coming?
Well, Madam Manager, the money that comes in, they said we'll get that in 2 installments and they'll just write a check. We don't have to have a pre-approval in order to go ahead and get and actually receive the funds. And those funds are received and put in an account. Is there any restriction on putting in an interest-bearing account? Or
No, that's actually a good question. Yeah, that's a very valid question.
sometimes they don't like you to make any money off of money
Yep.
they can give you for a grant, but
Yep.
if there's no problem with that, then I think we should do that. But I agree, we need to find some good ways to put that money to the use that it's intended for. Our folks could use some help. The ones who are on the front lines. There are other things that the town needs to do that we need to talk about. So I think it'd be good to go ahead and find out if we can put the money on interest and then set up some work sessions where we can decide what the priorities are.
Of course, we'll have to find out what our list of
Allowables.
are, yeah.
Yeah.
It's sounding like right now, the one that's mostly wide open seems to be going towards infrastructure. But I got an email from Carl Gillespie this morning, and he had it broken down pretty good. And I thought he did very, very good in explaining what we can expect from it. And I know that across the state, people like us sitting around this table seem to think that most of the money they're getting is going to go to infrastructure as well.
Mr. Mayor and Council, if I may, just two points to point out as well that I should have stated earlier. It's clear right now there's two things that this funding cannot be used for. One, it cannot be used for to supplement any type of pension funding. And then the second prohibited use is you cannot offset it with a tax decrease, meaning the town council could not lower property taxes and then make up that revenue with this funding that's been allocated.
It's like a non-supplant clause. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. But those are the two that are as spelled out as you can get that they cannot be used for.
Yeah. Well, we certainly could use it, that's for sure, in so many ways. Yeah.
And so,
Yes, sir.
you're suggesting some work sessions where we all get together and try to figure out
Yeah.
what we
And
would spend
focus
the money.
just on this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it might be better if, I hate to use the term shovel-ready, but if we can get our priorities, start thinking now about where you'd like to see this money go.
Yeah.
So, anything else, ma'am?
If I may ask council, when would you like to, I can of course come back with some dates because I know we have a budget session later this month, but when would council like to start looking at that? Would you like us to start looking at dates in April, May, I mean sooner rather than later? I can present some proposed dates at your budget work session, but just wanted some guidance from council if you want to try and squeeze in another April meeting or if you want to try and do another May meeting.
Oh, I mean, could it really not be part of our budget session?
Certainly could.
You know, to the extent that if we had some extra time and energy
Yeah.
to talk about it.
That's
it'd
not
be
a bad
possible.
idea at all.
Yeah,
We could make that the first meeting and then from there move on.
yeah,
That's, I like, that's very great.
and hope we get the money.
Yes.
When is our first budget meeting?
Your first budget work session is going to be Tuesday, April the 13th at 5:30 PM.
We'll be straightened up from the wedding to then.
Okay, anything else, Madam Manager?
No, sir, thank you.
Okay, discussion on vacation and sick leave accrual for public safety. Chief Orman and Chief Harrell, you're up, sir. Sirs.
Hello again. So in your packets, we provided you with some comparisons of other towns' vacation and sick leave accrual policies from towns smaller than us up to and including Asheville. And one of the first things to note, all of these towns offer their 40-hour staff and all of their staff twice the vacation and sick leave that the town here offers. We're not asking to change that. We're not asking to alter the staff leave accrual plan for the town. The reason for the comparisons are to show that all of these towns have identified the need for public safety to have different accrual rates in comparison to their total number of hours worked. When the town first adopted this policy, at the time the fire department didn't have any 24-hour staff. Since then we've evolved and advanced in our services, and we just need to get the policy to advance along with us to reflect our current staffing model. So what we've done, the back 2 pages of your packet, I believe, shows what we're requesting. As I started gathering this information from the other towns, it was then that I realized that the police department as well was not accruing the amount of leave as they should. The standard 40-hour staff person works 2,080 hours a year, with the police department working 2,184 hours a year and the fire department on our 24/48 shift schedule working 2,920 hours a year. That's approximately 30% more hours a year. And we just want the leave accrual rates to reflect that proportionately. So our staff sat down, they took the town's current policy where after 1 year of service, a staff member gets 40 hours of leave, and worked that whole program to figure out the coefficient for each year of accrual and how much a staff member accrues, and then applied that to our total staffing hours, and we applied it to the police department's total staffing hours for the year to come up with an equitable solution so that we're all earning a fair amount. So that's what we're asking for. And we also did the same thing with sick leave. You know, currently, if I myself am out sick for a day, I burn 8 hours of leave. If one of our guys is out sick, they burn 24 hours of leave. So they need to accrue a little more to make it even out. So that's what we're proposing for you, and I'm happy to entertain any questions or explain.
Any questions? Thank you. Chief Harrell, did you
Have you
want?
figured out how much this would actually end up costing additional funds?
Important note, I'm not asking for another cent, neither is Chief Harold. The additional leave that the employees would get, we can cover within our existing budget, so we're not asking for any additional monies.
The request is in good faith, I really believe that. I'm certainly not ready to make any actual vote on this tonight. I think it should come through our human resources and through our normal channels.
Let me say that that has been vetted out very strongly with department heads, and Mr. Culpepper was there at the Ordinance Review Committee today. We vetted this up one side and down the other, and I think that the public and everybody needs to understand when you're in a public safety type job, it's not a 40-hour-a-week job. You go across the street to EMS to see what kind of schedules they work. These schedules where you're on 24 and then you're off so many hours, I think we have to look at it a little different than a 40-hour work week. Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Mayor and Council, if I may, I know that we had approached the council a couple of years ago to look at this, and my approach was not correct. We did not take into consideration trying to do hour for hour. I fully support as management, Chief Harrell and Chief Orman's proposal tonight. We've been looking at it for probably a month and a half, ran it through ordinance review, ran it through HR, and I do feel like our public safety, we're obligated to look at taking care of them, because when we adopted our current personnel policy, we did not have the staff we have now. At that point in time, specifically for fire, we had 3 individuals who only worked Monday through Friday from 8 till 5. So that wasn't an issue. Now, when we've started increasing our staff to better assist our residents with our high call volume of over 2,000 calls a year, I feel like it has been our due diligence that we do need to look at compensating these departments for that time worked. And they're just asking for hour. They're not asking above and beyond.
I think that's the difference. Last time it was presented, it was on a day basis, and it ended up not being equitable. It went the opposite way.
I'm just used to the presentation coming from the manager and HR rather than from the department.
Sure.
And I think that's where, you know, we're going into our budget session. I'd feel more comfortable it being fleshed out that way.
Sure, and with budget session, one reason it did not come from my office this time was because I feel as though that your department heads who we entrust could better explain that and better explain how it was going to affect staff. I've already vetted it through budget, and we will continue to do so, but it should not affect budget at all. Both chiefs can make that work within their existing budgets.
Question that I would have is, you actually don't calculate annual leave based on the number of hours someone works. The fringe benefit for full-time employees is X number of hours per year or for annual leave. And I understand that. I think there's always been somewhat of a discrepancy and being penalized for people who work more than an 8-hour shift on the sick leave side. Because like the chief said, if one of our office staff is out, they lose 8 hours of sick leave, and they maybe come back to work the next day, but one of their guys is out, that's like 3 days of sick leave. So I think there's really should be some adjustment to that. I'm not real certain on the annual leave thing. I have to think about that a little bit, but I'd like to find out what all has been going on as far as discussion and get input back from the manager before I would be willing to go ahead and take action on it.
Okay, I just, coming from kind of a background of knowing where both chiefs are coming from, you're exactly right. It's got to level the playing field out.
Yes, sir.
You go right now to any fire department, you go to EMS, all these folks work different than an office job where you're there for 40 hours a week and then go home. I would like really to go ahead and adopt this if it's possible tonight.
And I can add, even though North Carolina is not one of them, there are several states that have a civil service law that actually dictates these calculations, leave accruance higher than the 40-hour staff relevant to the hours worked.
So if several states have that, then the rest of them don't.
Correct, they're not all there, but I'm just saying it's been proven that it's a valid request.
I'm not saying that I'm against it in principle. I'm saying I don't think it's appropriate for a vote on it tonight, and the pattern has come through. And I agree with Jack on that.
Is this not pretty much a personnel matter?
It is, sir.
It has come through the proper channels. It's been laid out why this is a fair thing, and I would really, as a person like I say, sitting up here with a background in emergency management and public safety, we need to quit batting this back and forth. We need to vote on it tonight and get these guys up on a level playing field.
When is it batted back and forth?
We just have. When was the last time
2
we
years
discussed
ago, we
this?
hashed it out.
Several years ago. Yeah.
Did we not hash it out just here? Travis brought it to us just a few months ago.
I did.
And I remember you bringing it, and then we may have even been between chiefs or something at that time, but you were to look into
I did.
some more.
And as HR director, I fully endorse Chief Worman and Chief Harrell's work on this. It's much better than what I presented. So if I had to put my stamp on what I presented and what Chief Worman presented, I would definitely say his plan is better.
And-
The employees paid, these employees are paid on an hourly basis, right?
Yes, sir.
And what about overtime?
They don't work overtime. They get, what's
They don't
called
get
Kelly-
overtime, they get time off?
They get Kelly Day where they take the
Comp
time
time?
off.
So they don't get paid for overtime, they just get comp time off?
If they work, they will get overtime, but we schedule it so that their overtime is limited to 4 hours per pay cycle. It's called a Kelly Day,
Yeah.
which is kind of a forced day off, if you will, to keep them from going over the 212 hours. And this is why I offered to spearhead the presentation, because outside of public safety, our schedule doesn't make sense to anyone else. So understanding the schedule better, I could explain it better. But yes, sir, it won't affect their overtime. The part-time staff that would cover their shifts would be getting straight time at an actual lower rate.
The law enforcement work more than 40 hours a week? Or the standard work week for average law enforcement is how many hours? 44, 48 hours a week?
40
42.
per week.
You work 12-hour shifts.
84
So
hours.
four 12-hour shifts, 48 hours, right? But you don't work just straight 12-hour shifts. You have some shorter shifts and so forth, I guess, don't you? In order to kind of control your overtime.
Correct. We work 5 one week and 2 the next. That rotates.
That averages.
There's 7 12-hour shifts per pay period.
And Mr. Mayor and Council, if I may, for management, I mean, certainly understand council wanting to take it under discussion. That's not the pushback at all. I hope you're not feeling like you're receiving tonight. We just want to get this out in front of you to start thinking it over as we go through the budget process. But I do agree with how we have presented it because, again, it's easier for that to come through public safety. Chief Orman and Chief Harrell have worked with me all along. Just because I didn't present it doesn't mean I don't support it.
I think this is a different plan altogether. No offense to Travis's plan, but it was different, and there was logical objections to it, and there was a lot of numbers that didn't make sense in that, in so much as I think fire was, under that plan, would get a substantial benefit. This, they're not getting a benefit, they're not getting punished anymore for their schedule.
Right.
Because it's went by to an hourly basis as opposed to the daily basis.
We're just asking for equal and fair.
So I do think it's different.
I think another thing that's changed too is that we're moving into more of an era of a professionalization of these public safety departments we have in Franklin. We're growing, we're professionalizing, the training that is required even now for your volunteer fire department. It's no longer go down there and get an old helmet and what other turnout gear they can give you.
Correct.
It's very professional. BLET is what up now, 720 hours minimum
It just went up again.
contact hours,
Yes.
just to be a sworn officer. And this, we're seeing more and more of this professionalization, and we need to bring our departments up to where they're on a level with the other professional departments that we have. And I would strongly urge this council tonight to go ahead and vote this in, and let's get moving and get these guys out of limbo.
We're not asking for an hour more than time served.
We know that.
Just an hour per hour.
We know that.
Make a motion.
We have the motion on the floor, and we have a second. Any further discussion?
I'd like to say I'm not against this at all. I think it's good. I support our emergency service personnel. I've worked with some great folks in the past, both in law enforcement, the EMS, and fire. And I know that firemen, if you work as a fireman 112 hours, you got to work before you even get any overtime. And it may be similar in some other areas, but I think when it comes to accruing vacation or sick leave, I don't have any problem with that at all. And you said that it's not going to create any additional cost to the town by making this approval so that you accrue vacation and sick leave at a different rate based on the number of hours, not just 1 week, but your average number of yearly hours that you work, to make it, as the mayor says, a level playing field. I don't have any problem with that, Mayor. I just want to make sure that there's not a unknown financial cost that we're not aware of. And I think it's probably always been a problem where people who work more than an 8-hour shift are penalized when they have a sick day. I think that's always been a problem.
That, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is always, police departments have historically worked, I believe it's called the DuPont schedule.
We have in the past.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about. I mean,
We're not currently on that schedule.
police and fire just are different when it comes to hours worked. They're a different animal than people normally equate with work. And I think it's caught up with it over the years. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor? Okay.
Thank you very much. Greatly
Okay.
appreciate it, my staff and police department. Thank you as well.
Okay, let's see where we are here. Adoption of proposed schedule to prioritize the Whitmire property. Madam Manager.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. Again, just kind of trying to follow up on the momentum from our strategic planning session. One of the things that came out from our moderator, Mr. Russ Harris, was maybe looking at setting aside a designated time to actually sit down and explore and discuss what the future of the Whitmire property will look like, while taking into consideration some of the past studies. I believe everyone should have, I emailed out earlier this week, an electronic copy of the most recent Whitmire study we did back in 2016 or 17, I think. We've also moved forward, that's on our website. I don't know why that's on me. It got left off for some unknown reason, but it is put on our website now. But just wanted to get some feedback from council. I had just suggested some dates to treat it very similar to how we treated that strategic planning session. We could get a moderator as well, but just kind of wanted to throw out some dates. It gets us past budget and maybe gets us through this American Recovery Act funds a little bit. But a couple of the proposed dates throughout Monday, June 21st from 5:30 to 8:30, Friday, June 25th from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m., and then a Saturday, June 26th from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Those are just dates to consider. We certainly don't have to take action on it tonight. We can bring that back up for discussion and set a date at your May meeting. But again, just wanted to follow up on some of the momentum that came out of the strategic planning session. Also in your packet are some notes that Region A had compiled through that session with us. That's in your packet. And then also Russ followed up with me in an email that's in your packet in reference to if we wanted to move forward with the School of Government conducting a study as well. I've got a contact, again, not looking for actionable items tonight, just wanted to do due diligence as manager and kind of put into frame what came out of that strategic planning session specifically in reference to Whitmire.
Could I bring up my wild
I think it's a
idea?
great idea.
I had I tell you, COVID's given me too much time to think, I think, but I would like to see, if the board approves it, and we can work on it, I would like to see, as we start really moving towards what are we going to do with this property, to have a block party up there and invite the public to come in and see and walk around on that property and just see what we've got up there.
Yeah.
And Mr. Culpepper, you would just be,
I'm tickled to death. Joe said he can get Shenandoah to play down there in the amphitheater, so we're good.
well, and
I'll
we
get
could
it and pay
have,
for 'em.
we could have some light refreshments and what have you, but I am amazed. I really never knew what we had up there till we cleared it all off. And I went up there and parked. It is absolutely the most spectacular view in Macon County. And you remember the, Norrell wanted to build a platform up there. Weren't you involved in that?
I don't think so.
Who was,
I tried to drag y'all up there before a retreat, though.
I know you
We're gonna have a
did.
Meeting up there.
well, it's not too late. Let's do it.
Cold that day, wasn't it?
Yeah.
David, anybody else on the council, let's get together and see what we might come up with to invite the public to go up there. And maybe we can have a string band, or we could have some kind of entertainment.
Well, that's June 26th is my birthday, so we'll have my birthday party up there if you want to. Just we'll have a meeting.
We're not doing it June 26th. I'm sorry. Hey, that's an idea. We can call it David Culpepper's birthday party.
You might have to order a couple extra porta johns, I don't know.
Okay, then I don't get any pushback that we can proceed to try to put that together and come up with a date and let the public see what we've got up there and appreciate it. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, before you move on, if just between now and maybe your May meeting, if, and I'll speak to each of you individually, just let me kind of know of those 3 dates, what kind of would work best for your schedule. So then that way, when we come back in May, we can have that date set and start planning.
Great,
Okay.
great.
Is there any value to having our EDC director, county EDC director at a meeting like that?
I think that'd be
Yes.
huge. And I'll reach out.
Okay,
We've got those dates in there, 21st, 25th, 26th, is that what they are?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
the next item is the discussion of the Town of Franklin solicitation ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, you wanted to add something about hospital letters?
I thought we were going to put that at the B after legal.
No,
No,
sir.
That's not
and-
legal.
and-
No, that was
Sorry,
all.
and-
Okay, all right, what I wanted to mention, a couple of things. I met with the hospital folks, some of them from Asheville the other day. It was just a meeting of minds. I asked them about, is there any possibility we could bring labor and delivery back? I got no indication that they would even consider it. And I explained to them the economic impact it has on a community when you don't have labor and delivery, and you want to attract young folks to an area. And so I'll just be honest with everybody. I did not get much out of that meeting. I did suggest that they go back, and that one thing they could do that would help a whole lot with their community relations is go back to the original name of Angel Community Hospital. Didn't buy into that. I got no indication of what they had plans for the old hospital or who actually even owns the old hospital, the ground that it sits on. We're losing doctors. And it brings me to a letter I got today from the city of Brevard. They are asking some of the cities and towns like Franklin and Highlands that have had their hospitals bought by HCA. They are asking the Attorney General to step in again and monitor what's going on with the hospitals because of the loss of doctors, the turmoil that has been where the nurses organized in Asheville. There's just been a lot of problems. And I'm going to personally send a letter, but y'all have a copy of the letter that's being sent to by Brevard to the Attorney General. If you would be so inclined, we can tailor it to come from this council. If there's any feeling on the council to follow up on this, not necessarily tonight, but another night, and see where we're going. Highlands has lost even more doctors now, and I talked to the mayor in Highlands today, and I think they were going to join in with Brevard. But this is happening everywhere that HCA has acquired a community hospital.
We just lost Robles too.
Robles is leaving, yes,
I
he
think
is.
he's the last.
He's the last.
Don't they have to have the same services? Isn't that part of the agreement?
What they're doing is it's some kind of a rotation thing. They're bringing docs in for a certain length of time, and then they're gone somewhere. I think the day of where you had your own doctor and he admitted you and showed up at 7 o'clock in the morning to check on you, I believe that's gone.
It's also worth noting in any letters that are sent that they base their decisions on what they were going to continue to offer in their cuts on our demographics at the time. And it's been 3 or 4 years ago now, hasn't it? And we have substantially different demographics than we did then. So if nothing else, an appeal to them or an appeal to Stein to have them revisit their numbers and their projections would be wise. Because they had us as a complete retirement community and
Y'all drag your calendar out.
changing.
Drag your calendar out. There is another meeting of the Independent Monitor. It's going to be this Wednesday at 5:30. It's by Zoom, and if you're interested in attending, I will send you the link, the Zoom link. But the pressure's back on the Independent Monitor again. And the question is, what have you done as the Independent Monitor? And so I'm very concerned about rural medical care. And I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but when you turned your rural medical care over to for-profit organizations, I'm not so sure that a rural area is getting what they should deserve. So what do y'all think? If you will, like I said, I'm sending a personal letter to Attorney General Stein. If any of you are so interested or you would like to act as a counsel, I would certainly entertain that.
Mayor, I think that we need to let them know that we're aware of what's going on and that we have always been proud and treasured our local hospital when this is true in communities throughout the country. I've seen it time and time again where big corporations, I'm not picking on this one in particular, but when corporations take over local hospitals, they're running, like you say, for profit. That means that the things that we used to have that we took for granted, if they're not money makers, the corporations are not going to provide them. And so that happens eventually, and you'll see a big change in the healthcare and a loss. And I think really, I think that's one of the reasons a lot of doctors are leaving these hospitals that are bought out by big corporations to try to find places like we used to have. And it may not do any good. We may not be able to change things, but they need to know that at least someone is looking over their shoulder and asking questions and aware, because the bottom line is, our concern is on the effect of the people who live here in Franklin and this county, and not for the people who make investments in hospital stocks.
Let me just quote you one paragraph from a council member in Brevard. And she said, "We can verify that 15 healthcare providers in Transylvania County have recently left the HCA system. 8 primary care physicians, 1 family nurse practitioner, 2 OBGYNs, 1 orthopedic surgeon out of 2 that were here in the county, 1 urologist, only full-time urologist in the county, and all the general surgeons will have departed when the last one leaves HCA on March 30th.
Do we have similar numbers for what's happened here?
No, but I can get them, although they were reluctant to talk to me about that. Didn't you think that I pretty much pointed out, I want some figures? And they acted like that was privileged information. And I said, they said, our studies show, and I said, well, our residents say. So that's my rant for tonight, and it's a dandy one.
Well, I mean, we have factual based evidence. I mean, Robles left and went to
Yeah.
Duke. So I mean, that's one. And there's been 6 or 7 others through the past couple of years. I mean, they're shedding pretty fast.
Well, I said to them, and Ms. Woodward was sitting right there, I said, I think 90% of the people in Franklin are like I am. If I get sick, send me to Angel Hospital. I want to be treated by people I know, I trust, I love, and that I grew up with. I don't want to be sent to Asheville when in the past, we could get many of these services right here in our local hospital. Okay, that's all I've got. I just want to know if there would be any objection. I will get with Sumner, and we'll come up with a letter and see if you want to approve it or not to mail to the Attorney General. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah, let's just keep it factual and objective, because there's
Yeah.
enough there objectively and factually to show our displeasure.
Yeah. Okay, that's at 5:30 Wednesday afternoon, Zoom. If you'll let me know, what I'll do, I'll send the council, and I'll copy it to the media as well.
Well, not until we approve it.
No, I'm talking about the Zoom meeting
Zoom meeting.
of the independent monitor.
Right.
So, but I don't have a letter written yet. I just received this late this afternoon, so. And I have talked to Brevard folks about it, and I also talked to some folks in Highlands about it. They're as concerned as we are. Okay. All right, Madam Manager, where are we? We're ready for legal?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Discussion on the Town of Franklin solicitation ordinance. Mr. Henning, sir.
Mr. Mayor, council members, as I explained somewhat last month, dating back to at least Chief Adams' time as your police chief, there had been a desire on your police force to have better tools to address solicitation, meaning, and what we call it in this ordinance is panhandling. When folks are directly approaching others for money, either could be out on the street, it could be near an ATM, it could be in a person's home. Because of negative experiences that people were having with overly aggressive or intimidating or just otherwise inappropriate sort of approaches. What happened to stymie our progress in that somewhat along the way was a Supreme Court case called Town of Gilbert versus Reed that really underlined how much the U.S. Supreme Court was expanding their thought about what is protected speech under the First Amendment. The thinking being, and then some ensuing cases have proven that even things that we might not individually think are very high value speech can be protected and might, if it took a little town like the town of Gilbert, Arizona, all the way to U.S. Supreme Court, it could take you there too. So that's counseled some serious caution on our part about how to approach that. But there has become kind of a consensus way to approach the problem, and so the language you have that adds to your chapter 113 and defines panhandling and how certain sort of inappropriate behavior in doing that is beyond what is considered to be protected sort of speech. That's what's incorporated into this model ordinance. We get that from, in part, School of Government. This is also in place in several municipalities across the state. Chief Harrell has done a good job of, and I mentioned to you last month, he has continued to sort of compile evidence that shows there is a problem that needs to be addressed. And I think that it's pretty compelling compelling government interest you have is ensuring your citizens feel safe in their persons, in their vehicles, in their homes. And I think that this language is proving to be narrowly tailored to address that problem. And that's kind of the legal standard that you have to meet to show that anybody who claims you're infringing on their rights, you have done it only so far as necessary to promote that compelling government interest. So that's sort of the legalese on it all. I am completely comfortable with your passage of the ordinance in this form. I don't know whether Chief Harrell wants to add anything to that, but I welcome your questions or thoughts or concerns, and otherwise it's right for your consideration and approval.
Anybody got any comment on it?
This ordinance be enforced by our police department. Will it be on a complaint basis only, or will it just be on the part of law enforcement? If they see someone doing this, to go ahead and act, or do they have to do it based on a complaint?
I think Chief Harrell's intent is certainly to field complaints. I don't believe he would say that if an officer witnesses clear violation of the ordinance, they're going to stand back and wait for a complaint to happen in order to restore peace. But that, leaving that sort of caveat, they mostly will be complaint driven. Chief, you want to speak to that?
I think Mr. Henning articulated very well, is primarily going to be complaint basis. But again, as we drive upon an issue or an incident where we recognize the individuals obviously from the history, then we're going to investigate and see what's going on there. Try to relieve that uneasy feeling from the individual and take over the incident on site.
I think it's definitely needed. I've been hearing stories about individuals knocking on doors and coming more than once, and even making the people that answer the door feel intimidated. I'm totally behind it.
Would that go along with the people that come and offer to pave your driveway? You know who I'm talking about. Boy, they scam people. Could that include those kind of scam things, Chief?
I didn't hear the entire story.
You remember the deal where people would come to pave your driveway, and one guy had to go in and use the phone while you worked out the agreements to have your driveway paved with tar?
It could encompass
Okay.
those type of incidents. Yes.
Good.
I think at the very least, it would give a tool to your police department to go to that person and say, hey, you might think you're doing business here, but this is not permitted by our ordinance, and further,
Well, our
behavior like
officers
that.
are going to exercise good judgment anyway. I mean, ideally, that's they've got discretion anyway. So,
Motion to adopt as presented.
I have a motion, and a second? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. Chief, you got your ordinance there. Okay, the other thing that I got mixed up about was we had a question about ABC permitting. Who wants to address that?
So, Mr. Mayor, as you might have noticed me furiously taking a few notes as we started the meeting, just to refresh my own memory about how all this works. As I told you last month when we had some discussion about this, the state law in North Carolina is very structured about how you can have an alcohol service referendum within your city. And it only gives you a few very limited choices. You have already obviously had, and that was back in 1995, 4 or 5, I think, the ABC store election. That's one of them that you can have. And then between malt beverages, unfortified wine, and mixed beverages, you can have elections about and under what circumstances those are going to be served. The means of doing that is either it's by referendum, that's the only way to do it, and it's by a referendum that is requested by the council, or you can have a 35% of your voter enrollment in the town petition your Board of Elections to conduct that vote. So ordinarily, you're going to make a request. The other time that I was the town's attorney and we did have a referendum on the mixed beverage election, the council adopted a resolution that asked formally the County Board of Elections to conduct that election and said exactly which of those things you are asking to be put on the ballot. They have to give notice at least 45 days in advance of the election. So, you probably need to give them at least 60 days notice if you were going to ask for that to be put on your ballot. And it can only go on your regular election ballot. You can't have a special election for this. It's got to go the same time other city offices are elected. So the different questions that you can ask are basically malt beverages, shall they be permitted on and off, or only on premise, or only off premise, or on premise at Class A hotels, motels, and restaurants, which is what you have. Unfortified wine, is it on and off only, on only, or off only? And mixed beverages is only permitted at hotels, restaurants, private clubs, community theaters, and convention centers. So those are the various things you can ask for. You have had your ABC store permit election years and years ago, and more recently, the mixed beverage and malt beverage served on premise at Class A hotels, motels, and restaurants. As I understand it, and the party that was here, the owners of Yonder last month, and that's what I was trying to get them to understand, is like those are the only choices, and it's not like there's some local ordinance that you can just rewrite and make, their plans for their property work under state ABC law. You just can't do it.
It's either citywide or not at all.
Yes, sir. And so what you could do that would open up the circumstances in which malt beverages are permitted to be sold is to have a referendum for permitting on and off premise, and that would open that up to they would be able to get a permit for on premise sale, even though they're not a Class A hotel, motel, or restaurant. And one final detail I will share with you, it is clear in the statute, if you run a referendum and the outcome is against any one of those things, it does not repeal your current election. So that's not, if you go run one, you're not putting the whole thing back on the ballot.
I think the real pickle here is how the state defines restaurant, because it has to be like 33 or 36 indoor seats, right? Which is a pretty big establishment.
Right. Yeah.
So that's catching not just Yonder twice in the same net, but it would capture anybody that has a smaller restaurant space.
That's true.
And the only way to remedy that is the referendum. We cannot change the state's definition of restaurants.
That's right.
So,
Yes, ma'am.
if the referendum, if the council voted for that, and it passed, what then would it allow to, what establishments beyond Yonder?
And Justin's much more the expert on this than I am, but I think the short answer is anybody who under ABC law is permitted to have a permit would be able to apply for and get one. And just so generally speaking, it would no longer be limited to the way that you have right now at hotels, motels, and restaurants. Does that make sense? I can try to summarize for you exactly who would be able to get one.
Because they are not a restaurant at all now.
Right.
They're just like a market.
It sounds like they're just like a market.
But they want to sell food in the future, apparently.
I didn't think they were in qualifying under the food. I thought they just wanted to
They-
sell.
Right now, they're acting as like a farmer's market,
Correct.
retail only, which they could sell, same as like a gas station or Ingles or grocery store, anything. Just sell retail to go. They would also like the option to, the other option that's not a restaurant is a eating establishment. They maybe change the name, they've changed the name every couple of years, but that's essentially what it is. An eating establishment is, which is anything where you serve food that can be consumed that's not meeting the restaurant definition, which is 36 seats and up. So they would fall under that if they're selling food that's been prepared that can be took off the premise and eat, or eat on the premise. That's, you don't have that assigned seating. For like them, where they're not going to probably have like a set area, they'll have to designate their entire property as seating. So if somebody's going to sit outside at a picnic table, they've got to designate that area for consumption of alcohol. Some of the other areas you were thinking that would add is like convention centers. Right now, that's one that we don't. Somebody might have opened a convention center. Some can sell alcohol. They cannot do that now. So going to this, that would be another added revenue or option that the city would have, including distilleries and some other areas in there as well. Small, something we really don't have, but it'll give you the option if somebody ever wants to open it, then it's there.
Tell me if I'm wrong, and I probably am, but is it not just basically circumventing this 36 seat rule or 36 table rule? Is that not what it basically does?
Yeah, there is, I mean, the rule that says it can
If
only
you
be
serve
sold
food,
in-
basically you can get a liquor permit or a permit.
I don't think they'd be required to sell food at all.
It sounds like it'd just be the general bar.
Yeah.
I mean, what you figure a roadside bar where you go in there, you might get a.
And there are
pick a
bars.
leg, that's about it.
So a convenience store, if somebody wanted to walk out of the convenience store, they could sit on the curb and drink a beer.
It all depends on the type of permit that they apply for. So if a facility has an on-premise facility, then somebody could consume it on-premise. But if somebody only has an off-premise, which is generally going to be a retail, they can't go out in the parking lot and consume.
Their ABC permit still regulates where they can drink beer on the premise. I don't think a convenience store would want somebody consuming in the parking lot for liability
Neither
reasons.
would I.
And I don't think they're permitted to do that. It's
Yeah, they would
that's an
never
open
have
container
that.
violation.
Yeah.
Even if
Yeah.
you, unless you have a mark out here where.
Yeah, it all goes back to the permit where you want, is going to be your designated area of consumption.
And if there is any desire to move forward on this, I would say we come back to you with a much more comprehensive look at what this opens up and what it doesn't, if you want to hear.
I'd like to know that before
I see no, yeah.
I mean, how many people would it benefit? What's the cost to put that on the ballot? I mean, is there a cost to us to put it on the ballot? I'm assuming there
There will
is.
be. So we made a phone call today, and unfortunately, we're playing phone tag, but there would be a cost to put that on the election.
I want to see how many people it benefits before, I'd like it, if it's something that's worth doing, it should benefit more than one business, I think, shouldn't
Maybe a
it?
situation where we don't know who it benefits.
And I'm sure it will, I just don't know who they are.
I mean, it's almost like Silva. I mean, if you go to Silva, there's a bunch of like little tiny small restaurants that exist because they sell beer and wine and that type of stuff, and there may be only,
Yeah. And
seating
I'm-
for 12 people inside of it.
And I'm not saying I'm opposed to it, I'd just like to see, I'd like to have a better fleshed out picture of who this affects and who it doesn't.
Or like a U-joint. You can never have a U-joint in Franklin because there's not enough indoor seating.
I think it's gotta come to us. I think there's gotta be a little swell, more than just a random request here and there before we start really considering it. And I don't think it's our job to push it. I think I'd rather just let it come to us, like the last ones have, you know.
Okay, so any kind of action on that tonight, or are we just gonna?
Do you need advice to go forward with giving us examples of what could and couldn't happen?
Well, and I don't know what it would take for, I've kind of given you the skinny on what it looks like under the statutes. I don't know whether, or how easy it would be to find out how many different parties there might be interested if you if you did have it. I don't,
The state's already circumvented it by allowing breweries, and they exist.
breweries got special treatment, that's a fact.
There's something we need to look at too. If we put it on when we have the municipal election, it may not cost us that much. But having a separate election, it would cost probably around $5,000 or $6,000. I think it's $7,500 for a separate
I
election.
think you can have a separate election, but for an alcohol referendum, there's a statute saying you can't call it, if there's a referendum that only affects a municipality, you can only have that at the same time as your regular election.
Okay. And the other issue that we're facing in that, we don't know when the election's going to be this year. There is a possibility that we will not have, that municipalities will no longer be able to have elections in odd years. They want to put them in with the president and everything else. So we just don't know when the election would be. So we need to decide if we're going to do something or not do something, and at least get in line with it so we'll be prepared. Okay, anything else? All right, for those of you, we've got a closed session, and before we go in that closed session, let me go ahead and just give the announcements. So if anybody wants to leave, you can feel free to do so. John, do you foresee any action coming out of the closed session?
I do believe we'll consider a public notice, and so you're scheduling of a public hearing for next month with a notice that'll be fully published. So it's not
Okay.
like anybody not here would miss any substantive discussion
Okay.
you won't see in print.
Okay, so the first council budget meeting is Tuesday, April 13th at 5:30. And there will be a celebration of life for Barbara McRae on Saturday, April the 17th at the gazebo at 1 o'clock. And that's open to the public and everybody in remembrance of Barbara. Anybody want to go around the table before we move into a closed session? Mr. Horton, you got anything, sir?
No, thank you for the honor of serving as vice chairman.
You've got to wear a tie to every meeting now,
Have I
Jack.
got to wear a tie or a bow tie or anything like that? You know?
Jack, the way I look at it, it'll look good on your resume. Because it's kind of skinny as it is.
You're going places.
That's what they said when I became a tax collector. I don't know if I want to do that.
Mr.
Thank you,
Lewis,
thank you.
sir.
Thank you for the honor. I appreciate the board's confidence in that, and I'm here in the wings if you need me.
I'll let you know about the ribbon cuttings.
Okay.
Ms. Mashburn. Mr. Culpepper.
Kudos to the health department and all the Macon County EMS and the National Guard. Giving those shots, that's a well-run operation out there. So kudos to them, and go get your shot if you haven't already.
Mr. Collins, sir. You're good. Okay, we'll take a vote to go into a closed session. And like I said, if the media and anybody wants to stay, you're welcome to do so. But if I was sitting out there with the media, I'd go on home. So, all right, motion to go into closed session based on, as presented. Okay, all right. All in favor? Okay, we're moving in. Where are we going to meet?
I think we just.
And then the media, we can let them stay upstairs.
Okay.
Yeah.
To be reconvened at 5:30 on the 13th
Of April.
of April.
Is that a second?
Second, yeah.
Okay. All in favor? Okay, we're recessed till April
13th.
13th.
At 5:30 p.m.
5:30.
Same time, same place, same bat channel.
To have it in conjunction with our budget meeting, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, guys.
Something else in that budget meeting you gotta talk about?
1, 2.
Oh, yeah.